Hello there. It is 6:35 p.m. on Friday the 13th, spooky. And I am coming to you from a church that's about 9 miles, I guess, 9 miles what? I want to say 9 miles east? Is that right? Yeah, north and east. I'm a little bit outside of Bryson City, and I found this church on the map, which, historically, I like churches. I feel like you're always allowed to be there, even if that might be technically questionable. And, this church has a natural spring, which I should take a picture of for the album art. And so that is my plausible deniability. I'm not here to cause any trouble or make any problems. And so as I sit here and make logistics, ostensibly I'm also here to collect water from the spring. And, I was thinking on the way here, because drinking dirty water is something that scares me, because I don't want to get sick if I can help it. And water is obviously a pretty classic vector for being sick. But I've been drinking from streams for days and days now, And this is supposed to be just another spring that comes right out of the mountain. And I was checking, it's funny, this spring actually has like Google reviews, And so I was just poring over them and seeing if anyone was like, don't drink from here, I got sick or whatever. Didn't see anything like that. Saw only things to the contrary. And I feel like one of my favorite things about these kinds of trips is that it does force me to trust the world a little bit more. I think myself, just like anyone else, like we want to control our little sphere of life, And to greater and lesser degrees, we attempt to do that. But when you're doing something, especially walking, oh my gosh, walking is just like, wow, you couldn't be doing anything less grandiose. It's like the most basic thing that humans do, and some of us don't even do that much, But yeah, just walking through space, you have to trust the world, otherwise you'll never make it, because it's just like there's a lot of opportunity to be overwhelmed by the complete general, if only just perceived, lack of control. So here I am. And I have a plan, and I have a mission, and I have thought a lot today about that plan and that mission, and I'm excited to share the details with you. So, in the last clip, I was talking about how, I wasn't really sure where I was going to go and what I was going to do, because, you see, the problem for me is that I really, the whole point for me being out here is to be continuously moving, and by and large, the Appalachian Trail allows you to do that. And so, some people like the woods, I like the walking. It just so happens that most of the walking on the Appalachian Trail takes place in the woods. But for me, it's just like, wow, this is so cool. It's just like, I can just walk forever. I can walk until I finally don't want to walk anymore, which that will be tested here soon. But yeah, it's just like, it's just, I don't know. It's just something I enjoy doing. And so the crux of the matter is that, many people with the incoming weather who are at this point in the trail, where you're basically, at the foot of the Smokies, a lot of them are content to just take a couple of days off, But I really don't want to do that. I would get stir crazy, and it's not a guarantee. Like a lot of times when you're at a hostel on the Appalachian Trail, I don't know how much you can do this in Georgia, but for sure it is something that is a little bit more a part of the culture in like New England anyway. But you can do like work for stay. So basically, they'll give you a couple of tasks, and you complete that, and then depending on how many tasks you do and the quality of those doings, they'll subtract a certain amount of money from your fee for staying. And I wouldn't mind doing that because, really I just want to stay busy. Like the idea of just like sitting around all day just because it's like cold outside, like you got to understand, like for me, the weather conditions that are coming up are not weather conditions that I'm actually unfamiliar with. but I do fear the context of the actual environment with those conditions. That's the part that makes me lose trust, because, like, again, I don't know if my gear would keep me warm. I don't know if the storm would necessarily make it so that the shelters were compromised. And what else? Well, yeah, it's like it's a nasty trifecta. They say, like, good, cheap, fast, pick one. Well, this is more like, possibly lethal weather is like cold, windy, and wet. And Monday and Tuesday are going to be both of those things, or both. It's been a long day. It's going to be all three of those. It's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, and it's going to be wet. So if you make a mistake, or you're not otherwise prepared for those kind of conditions, it could be really, really bad, because you're also in an area where there's just like very little, it's just hard to access that area. And so, yeah, I guess I'm just sitting here justifying this to myself again, but, it's something I've been thinking about today. So I'll do the chronology, because the chronology kind of dovetails into what the actual plan is, and then we can kind of go from there. But yeah, so I hit the trail today. I think it was almost 10:30. Like, after as cold as I was last night, I was just like, man, this is like, I need to really think about what I'm doing here. Because again, the Smokies, they can be as many as 2,000, 2,500 feet higher than that. And last night wasn't even one of the coldest nights that they're calling for. So, yeah, I waited around, did things. I communicated with people who had been kind of pending in my mind, and had a couple of cups of coffee, talked to my mom. Shout out to my mom. And, yeah, just kind of luxuriated. I ended up doing, what was it, 16 miles today? 15 and a half. So close enough to 16 just makes no difference. But yeah, not a Nero. That whole plan, I decided that was, I don't know, I walked down, okay, let's do the chronology. So I left and started heading back to the NOC, which is probably the first time I've ever gone back. I have gone southbound before, but that was because it was convenient to cover miles so that I could jump back northbound without missing anything. That was in Vermont, somewhere in between the Yellow Deli and somewhere else. But by and large, I have never backtracked like that. So that was kind of interesting, and I ran into a ton of people, and it was nice to kind of touch base with them. I really, really, really don't want to be a fearmonger and tell people that they need to like do this or that because of the way that I'm feeling about something. But as I made my way down the trail, I did kind of explain myself a few times to some people who, some who I had seen before, some who I hadn't, just to kind of see, not necessarily to try to convince anyone to do anything like what I was doing, because honestly, I don't think I would be able to convince a single person on the Appalachian Trail right now to do what I'm doing. I think this is way too far off the beaten path, literally, And so, talked to a few people. The vibes were good. It was actually very warm, but it took a long time for me to get down to the warm area. In fact, I'm kind of curious what my elevation is right now, because, sleeping at 4,000 feet last night was pretty miserable, and I bet I'm at like 2,000 something now, if I can find my elevation app, and it can pull it up. Where am I, my dude? 1,988 feet. And I was born in 1989. I'll take that as a good sign. So yeah, good vibes, and it took a while for me to warm up, honestly. Like, I was wearing all of my clothes for maybe a quarter of the descent, just because it was still so cold and windy. But eventually, I started finally feeling that nice buffet of warm air. As the wind blew, it transitioned, I don't know, it was kind of like being in an oven that was heating up, So eventually it felt good. I'm trying to think if I need to do some figuring for where I want to actually put my tent. There's like a nice little area over here. I don't know how, on a Friday night, how likely is it that people will come and fill up their bottles? Seems unlikely. I guess we'll see. Because if I need to wait until dark to set up my tent, so I have plausible deniability in case anyone does roll up. But again, I feel like I'm on holy ground, so I will hold my ground. Hold my ground on holy ground. But yeah, so eventually made it down to the NOC, and basically my plan was like, okay, I don't really want to start thinking about anything until I have like a pretty substantial meal, because I feel like as cold as I was, and then having just done like this 6-mile descent, I needed to fill up the tanks a little bit. And so I went and ordered a pizza, which was $30. So, NOC, you just can't lose. You're going to pay an arm and a leg eventually. And I still have some remnants of that for dinner tonight, which I'm looking forward to. I got it specifically as sort of a health tonic. Take that as you will. It's a tomato, broccoli, and garlic pizza. So, garlic's good for you. And if I feel a little under the weather, garlic won't hurt, right? So had that pizza. Well, I ate like 4 pieces of it. I didn't want to be stuffed because I knew I needed to use my brain, and I didn't want to be super focused on feeling like bloated, So, I ate that and hung out outside and just kind of enjoyed. I have to say, again, one of the things I'm actually liking about like having this phone with me, which is not, again, there's not a lot of things I like about this phone because it just seems like it drains the battery so quickly to do the things that I want to do on it. But one thing that I do like is that when I'm charging it, I can't have it with me. And so I can't listen to podcasts, I can't listen to music, I can't respond to texts, I can't do any of that stuff. So kind of just forces me to engage with the environment around me and not have that as like, anything at my disposal. I really try to stay very aware of like being on my phone in public. I really do think that that's like I don't want to say that it's rude, because I don't want people to think that I'm saying that they are rude, but for me myself, I think that that's the standard I hold myself to. I think that if you're on your phone excessively when you're out and about, it just kind of looks like you're just like you don't even want to be there, and most of the time when I'm out and about, it's because I do want to be there. And again, there's like some gray area here because I'm usually listening to music or a podcast, but I do feel like those are more active ways of enjoying my environment and not strictly something that is passive and consumer based. And I'm probably just making up my own excuses, but suffice it to say, I do like that my phone is not with me all the time. When it needs a little nap, I put it in its cradle and then I walk away for a while. So I spoke with a woman who I'd met up with the other day at a shelter. It was actually the shelter that I went by, Cold Springs Shelter, which this church is actually called Cold Springs Baptist Church or something. And she had just come down the mountain and she was going to go stay at a hostel, and I was interested in what she was up to because, again, not wanting to fearmonger, but just trying to gather and collect data. I'm just like, what are you going to do? Like, what's your plan for the next few days? Like, how are you going to either take time off and not go into the Smokies, or are you just going to grin and bear it? Like, I've talked about this to a few people today, including myself several times, but I honestly don't think that I'm being overly dramatic to say that it could be like a lethal time to be out there. Like, I really hope that no one goes out there, I just feel like it could be really problematic and dangerous if you're not ready for it. And that's me coming from, a background of extremely mild winters. It's just like I don't have the skill set and I don't have the equipment to be able to deal with that level of adversity. It certainly is something that can be done. I know that for sure. But, this early into the Appalachian Trail, when you're like 150, 170 miles, whatever it is, into the trail, and you jump into this like expert mode of trail living where, you got to be really careful. You can't make any mistakes that would be detrimental to your ability to stay warm. And I just think that's going to be so hard up there at elevation. Anyway, so we spoke for a little bit, this woman and I, and then she headed out to a hostel. And then it was time for me to finally sit down and pore over my maps and make an actual game plan, because I was like, okay, what am I actually going to do? Because like I have only, basically the weather gets bad on Monday, but that happens throughout the course of the day. So I have some fudge factor there. I have a fudge factory there. So Monday can be the day that I arrive somewhere that is safe, warm, and secure, which means that Saturday and Sunday, those 2 days need to be used very strategically, because those are going to be the days that I can do the bulk of my movement with the least amount of environmental resistance. And so, just pouring back and forth between Google Maps and the Far Out app that I use on the Appalachian Trail for map data and stuff like that, I came to the decision that I will walk to Hot Springs, North Carolina, which is, I think, well, let's see how far it is from here. That'll actually give me a pretty good idea of like what's to come. And I was thinking that I was initially going to meet up with the trail at Max Patch, which is a pretty cool like feature of the Appalachian Trail, but it's at 4,000 feet, so I kind of don't think I'm going to do that anymore. But yeah, so Hot Springs from here is 76 miles, which is perfect. So my plan basically is to have 2 30-mile days. So do a 30-mile day tomorrow on the road, which I guess will probably put me like a little bit in between. I'll be east of Cherokee and west of Maggie Valley, and then do another 30-mile day, which will take me through Maggie Valley and Lake Junaluska, and then I'll have a 16-mile day to get to Hot Springs. And that 16-mile day on Monday is like crucial, because that'll be the day where the weather really turns, So it'll go from, I think the high is in like the 50s or something like that. And then it will start to turn cold and it will start to rain. And then the low for that night is like 17 or 12 or something like that. And that's at like the city level. That's not 5,000 or 6,000 feet up on the mountain. Again, I did a lot of research into the weather as well. That was another factor that I needed to consider. And I am a little skeptical of the Appalachian Trail weather source that I use, atweather.org, because it just seems like it's going to be colder than they're predicting. Because if it's going to be in the NOC where I was today, on Tuesday the low is like 17 or 19 or something like that. And I think as you go up, if let's just say that's 2,000 feet, if you went up, let's say, I guess I'll be generous. I think it could be 9 to 10 degrees colder, not to mention the wind and the rain. So, it could be sub-zero. That was one of the things that people said to me at the NOC, that the Smokies could, all things considered, have a wind chill, at least, that dips into that kind of temperature. And that's just, that's too cold, Like, I remember I did the Long Trail portion that is not on the Appalachian Trail. So the Long Trail is like the oldest long trail in the United States. It's in Vermont. And the Appalachian Trail joins with it for, 100 miles or something like that. And the part of the Long Trail that is not on the Appalachian Trail goes up all the way to the Canadian border. And when we were out there, there was like a cyclone bomb that was occurring. And I remember hiking with my partners at the time, shout out to Allie and Compton. And I just remember, even though we were hiking, and we were hiking pretty briskly, I was like, I didn't feel like I was getting warm. Like, I just felt like, despite the movement, it wasn't enough to overcome the cold. And I remember talking to Allie because she was from Pennsylvania, and so she had more experience with the cold. But I was like, is this dangerous? And she was like, yeah. And so we ended up getting to a shelter and staying in the shelter for like 13 hours before even going to sleep or something like that, just because we needed to get out of the cold. It was blustery. It was windy, which is, I guess, the same thing, and it was snowing like crazy. It was a wild little walk that day. And again, that's just kind of what I would fear would happen up at elevation in the Smokies. So, I'm very content with my plan. It's going to be very, very seat of my pants, and I hope that this is like the last time I'll have to deviate from the trail for like this amount of distance, because I certainly don't mind the idea of like dipping into town on a given day, because there's like a road walk I can take that would give me the ability to resupply food like sooner than other people might be able to, because they're more purist than I am. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also, I don't know, it's funny, I'm a little nervous about it, like, just because I haven't done those kinds of big days out here. I've definitely, I've flirted with, lower, mid-20s, I suppose. There's no reason a 30-mile day will be any more detrimental than any other day I've done on the Appalachian Trail, because, you got to think the elevation gain is really the difference there. Like, as I have found in the past, in 2022, when I got off the Appalachian Trail proper in Rangeley, Maine, in favor of road walking, I found that if I put the same amount of time that would take me to do a 20-mile day on trail onto the road, I could basically do, almost 10 more miles, or maybe that's an exaggeration, but maybe 8, in the same amount of time and the same amount of effort, just because the elevation is so much easier to deal with and the road is so much more efficient. I feel good about the shoes that I'm wearing. I feel good about my general level of fitness. As I was walking, I certainly considered more and more that, like, I think the reason why my throat was scratchy was probably a combination of pollen and cold air, but we'll see. But yeah, as of now, I feel really good about the plan. And I plan to proceed with it, barring some kind of, something that makes me think that I should do something differently. And yeah, so after coming to a decision at maybe like 3:30, I was just like, well, I gotta go. I gotta make some miles today in the direction that I need to go, because if I'm gonna make this achievable within 3 days, then getting a little bit of a head start today is vital, because there's a huge difference between doing a 16-mile day and doing a 25-mile day on Monday. The sooner I can get to Hot Springs, the better. And I should say, my plan for Hot Springs is to go to a hostel on Monday, sort of like probably, mid-afternoon-ish, and check in there, and then take a zero on Tuesday, which I am excited about, because I don't like taking multiple zeros when I feel like I can't do anything. But I think, in like walking around Hot Springs on a really cold day when I don't have to hike, that sounds fun. I'll enjoy that, because I don't have to be out there any longer than I want to be. So I'll sleep at this place called Laughing Heart Hostel, which is right off the Appalachian Trail when you first come into Hot Springs. And then I'll stay there Tuesday as well, and then I'll hit the trail again Wednesday, when the weather is supposed to improve. And also, generally speaking, I'll be at a lower elevation, at least initially. I don't know how long that will last, but, Hot Springs is pretty low relative to the Smokies. And, it is a little regrettable to think about the things that I'll miss, which is obviously the entirety of the Smokies and Max Patch and Standing Bear Hostel. That's one of my favorite hostels too. Although, I've heard some reports that Standing Bear can be pretty much the epicenter of norovirus outbreaks, which does not surprise me at all, and I say that respectfully. I've always enjoyed the grimy nature of Standing Bear. I just kind of feel like it's like a punk rock kind of hostel. There's like very few rules that go beyond like, don't be a dick. Like, as long as you are generally put together, they tolerate a lot there. And I'm sure that's bitten them in the past. And obviously, people, again, even that far into the trail, there's just so many opportunities with a bunch of people who are, dirty and not paying too much attention. And that's another thing too. Like, I don't know if me being healthy to this point is because of how much I worry about it or because of just the fact that maybe things are not as virulent as I fear. I'm sure it's a little column A, column B kind of situation, but yeah, that's just kind of, I don't know. If I ever want to go to those places, I always can. It doesn't have to be on the Appalachian Trail. And this, again, it gives me a different kind of mission, which is exciting because, not that the Appalachian Trail at all was getting boring. I will miss it. It's just a very safe place to be, by and large, when the weather's good anyway. But yeah, this will definitely, once I finally get back to it, I will feel good to be back. So, yes, I left and hit the road proper. I made the decision about 3:30, went down and packed everything up and was on the road at 4. And I walked by a hostel that I was kind of considering staying at tonight, but it was only like 2 miles down the road. And that's just not far enough for it to be a meaningful thing. And I also didn't really want to break down and pay for a hostel just yet. I still feel like I can get a couple more days and a couple more dollars worth of roughing it. I have not stayed indoors once since starting this walk, since March 1st. So it'll definitely be due by the time I get to Laughing Heart, for sure. I'll be ready for it. And it'll be well deserved too. And it's a cool story. I ran into a couple of people at the hostel that was only 2 miles out. I think it was called Rambling Root. And it was cool to see them and get a little bit of encouragement from them because, I was like, again, this is just my interpretation of the weather information that I've taken in. I really don't want to be a fearmonger, but I'm very nervous about the idea of the Smokies at this point, and I also I can't sit still. Like, I'm out here, as long as out here will have me, I'm out here to walk, and I'm out here to be in motion every single day, as long as I can help it. And in order for me to continue that kind of schedule, that means that I need to do this road walk. And yeah, that's where my head was basically all day. So I'm glad that I did this 9 miles or whatever it was to get here, because again, 2 30-mile days is way better than 2 35-mile days. 2 30-mile days and then a 16-mile day. That sounds nice, and they can be approximate. I don't really want to split it up too much because, a 32-mile day and a 28, that's going to hurt at some point. But yeah, 30-mile days, those are doable. I've done those before. I've done a lot of those before, If you look back at my 2022 through hike on Strava, like I did 30s like a couple times a week, And then when I got to Rangeley, a 30-mile day would have probably been considered a short day because it was so easy to get mid-30s. I did a couple of 40s. As I mentioned somewhat recently, I did a 49-mile day. I guess I'm just talking myself up now. But yeah, I'm feeling good about this plan. And I also like the idea that I'll be just in a completely different environment. Like, it's going to be vital for the next few days for me to eat on the go. Like, I won't be making any of my food. It will be all stuff that I do with restaurants and fast food and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be quick, easy. I'll probably get to go to Starbucks, which I'm excited about. I haven't been to a Starbucks for many months, because I think the last time I remember going to a Starbucks was in December, because I had COVID, so I was like wearing a mask and wearing gloves, and I felt like people were looking at me like I was from a different planet. But whatever, it's all good. And yeah, I had a couple of list notes, I think. But what were they? Okay, well, this is kind of interesting. So, unbeknownst to me, because I thought, I've never walked from NOC, from Nancy Hale Outdoor Center to Hot Springs. Like, I know that for a fact, right? And so I headed out because I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like, novel ground, never been here before. And as I was walking, I got to an intersection that would take you to Fontana, which is part of the Appalachian Trail, and that's honestly the last place where you can do any kind of, resupply or pre-supply before going into the Smokies. That's your last chance, basically. I realized that I had actually biked on this road from that point at that intersection, which I think was the intersection of 28 and 74. I went there. I was on that road on my bike the first day of the bike ride when I did the long errand, which was just kind of crazy because I crested some hill at some point and there was a BP and I saw these rocks out in front of it and I was like, oh man, like I've been here before. Like I was here back in August, whatever that August day was, the first day that I was headed out to San Francisco. Something about that felt like a full circle kind of experience, just like closing the loop a little bit. And I don't know, it made me feel good. Like I was looking today for omens. I was like, the trail, I do believe that it is a type of an entity. And I was just like, if you can show me any indication that this is a good idea, I would appreciate it. And I feel like I did have many, many indications that, the spirit of the trail was with me, even if I was away from it. From talking with those people at the hostel to realizing that I had actually some familiarity with this area, and even coming to this church. Like, generally speaking, I feel good about being here. I hope that my faith is well placed in that respect. And yeah, I think it might be time for me to start doing a couple of things to wind down for the evening. I wish that there was a little bit more coverage for me to camp somewhere safely. So maybe while the sun is still up, I can go investigate that a little bit. It's only 7:07, so I've got a little bit of daylight left. There's a little bit of a interesting, it's like, I don't know, it's like, you don't want to be on private property, but it's hard to tell where private property is explicitly. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But I do see this hill thing over here, which would be a really nice place to put my tent. I might go take a look at that. So with that, I'm going to leave it there for now. And I will get back to you tomorrow. No idea where I'm staying, which is par for the course. But hey, I'm out here for experiences, and this is bound to be one. So, love you. Bye.